It's like the same thing I got with my lawsuit that I'm doing. Obviously, they don't want to have the state of Alabama have to answer, because honestly, the people who stole my kid, you know, the CPS, DHR, honestly, they're federal agents. Almost every federal state agency is under some sort of federal control. Everybody knows that. You hear that all the time. You hear some women screaming, "Hey, it's an all men's golf course, and they won't let us play." If they collect $1 federal dollar, they got to let everybody into the golf course. If they don't receive a federal penny, well, then they could discriminate. They could say, "Well, we don't want these, and we certainly don't want the Irish." You know what I'm saying? But that's when they're not receiving federal funds. But see, the CPS, they receive federal funds. Anybody who receives federal funds, they're acting as a federal agent. They're distributing the funds of the federal government, so they act as a federal agent. So see, obviously I'm suing the CPS, which is a federal agent. So obviously these people don't want me to move a claim against one of their brothers, another federal agent. Because honestly, at the time that the wrong was committed, it not only was the DHR a federal agent, they were under the control and under probation from the Alabama court that I'm moving my claim in. So honestly, it's not the state's fault that the wrong happened. Honestly, it's the Alabama Middle District Court's fault that the wrong happened, because they were under the DHR was under probationary terms of a consent decree for 17 years, and the federal district court judges had control of Alabama's DHR. So obviously, when my kid was taken by the DHR, then obviously you go after the person who was under their control, which was the Alabama Federal District Court. And the judge who is presiding over my case just happened to be the chief judge when Alabama was on probation. So honestly, the judge who's hearing my case, honestly, is the judge who I'm supposed to sue. Honestly, he's the guy I'm supposed to sue, not DHR, because he was in control of the DHR. Like the building I'm suing him in Alabama is called the Frank M. Johnson Complex. If anybody Googles the history of Alabama, it says Frank M. Johnson. He was called the King of Alabama because he was the chief judge of a federal court in Alabama. So they had so many Alabama agencies messing up back in the 60s and 70s, violating civil rights, that if the Department of Transportation wanted to lay out some blacktop, they had to get the chief judge's permission. If they wanted to cut a new park in the state, the Department of Forestry was under the control of the district court. Everybody was every freaking agency of Alabama was under the control of Frank M. Johnson, who just happened to be the chief judge of the federal court. So the chief judge, who just happened to be under the control of controlling the DHR at that time, just happens to be my judge. Isn't that special? Because honestly, I'm supposed to be suing him. But like I said, because what's funny is when they said, I'm trying to remember the federal judge what he wrote. Yeah, so like I said, this is what I wrote to the magistrate today, because the magistrate is recommending that the case be dismissed. But it's funny. So there's a 2-sentence lawsuit. He doesn't even know what the hell he's dismissing yet. So it's pretty funny. It just says, "It is well settled that a federal court is obligated to inquire into subject matter jurisdiction, and if the court finds it does not have the subject jurisdiction, the court's remaining act is to dismiss the case for lack of jurisdiction." And then, isn't that special? The very first thing this guy says out of the United States District Court is, "It is well settled that a federal court." And what does it say? It is well settled that the United States District Court is obligated to inquire. No, it says it's a federal court. So I explained to him in great detail what a federal court is. You know the great detail, federal court? Corpus Juris, Section 344, characteristic of a federal court. It's a court of record. That's the great detail I gave him. Got copied and pasted it right out of, I scanned the book, and it's that whole line, Section 344, Federal District Courts, characteristics, what's a record? There you go, buddy. It's a court of record. So Greg really liked the way that I wrote to him, saying that the Lentz court requires a magistrate. If you believe, William, that you are competent to hear matters in the court of record, the court will be pleased, to have you serve it. So I thought it was pretty funny that I said, I basically just asked him, I said, This is pretty funny because I read this to Greg earlier. This is my response to him basically saying that he's like, the court should dismiss this. So I said, firstly, do you at times act as a magistrate in or at federal court? Because Greg, loves to explain to everybody what in or at means. So I love doing that too. So it's like, I'm asking him, do you act as a magistrate in or at federal court? And I said, for I see that you refer to federal court quite frequently within your opinions or orders. And then I said, I require all who are in service of my case to be competent in just what the characteristics of a federal court are, and that the federal court is a court of record. And then I put down underneath it, a court of record proceeds according to the common law. And that's out of Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Not statutes or codes. And another aspect of a court of record is the tribunal is independent of the magistrate. So then I said to the magistrate, if you cannot control your actions to remain independent of the tribunal, please recuse yourself before you become personally liable for damages. There you go. So I'm sure he's.
Language is actually clearer than that because it says the person of the magistrate must remain independent of the tribunal.
Right. So that's nice that he gave a recommendation as a magistrate, but I told him at this point court has yet to convene. I said the only part of the tribunal that has convened so far is the wrongdoer and prosecutor. Hey, I said the court as to date simply consists of the prosecutor and the wrongdoer. The jury, which are to be the only judges over this matter other than the prosecutor or the wrongdoers, have yet to be brought into attendance. So there you go. We don't have no judges yet. We have a magistrate, but we don't have no judges. The judges in this matter is going to be the jury, which is going to be the only judges other than the prosecutor and wrongdoer. See, the wrongdoer also judges his acts. The wrongdoer is going to answer. And either he's going to say, hey, you know what did I do? Let me judge my actions. Let me judge what I do. Did I do wrong? Yes or no? It's like, you know what? Honestly, I don't think I did anything wrong. So see, he's also a judge. And then I want to say, you did do something wrong. And then he's going to come to me like on a pre-hearing thing. It's like, well, just how much wrong do you think I did? It's like, I'm going to say, okay, maybe that much I'll agree to. And then we settle it before it goes before an open court. But if he doesn't agree, we're going to take this before an open court. And the open court, I want a trial by jury. So I basically just said to this is the letter. This is going to be like 4 or 5 different notices, man. You guys can see the notices on Pacer. Sometime during the week, I've already downloaded them. Sometime during the week, I'll spend some time and I'll put them up on my broadmind.org website under documents, and you folks can follow along with step 1, step 2, step 3, so you guys don't have to spend 10 cents a page to download the things. But then I asked the magistrate, it's like, the wrongdoers were under the control of this Alabama Middle District Court at the time of said wrong. It was the Alabama Middle District Court's chief judge's duty, obligation to train, discipline, supervise, and monitor the federal agent known as the DHR. So for the Alabama Middle District Court's chief judge's failure to prevent harm to the people in which he serves, he is there also liable to I, a man, for the wrong. But at this time, I wish not to pursue the wrongs of this chief judge, who just happens to be my judge in this case. Isn't that just lovely? You see how they put the man in charge, who was in charge, and who's ultimately liable? It's pretty funny there. Well,